Hello, this is Matthew Graham with the Rogue Meteorology Rogue Report. Let's take a look at what weather is going to come down the pipe for St. John's tonight, Thursday into Friday, January 22nd, 2015. So what we're going to do to get started, we're going to take a look at the radar, and then we're going to compare it to how the models are performing right now. And if I sound sick, I apologize. That is the case. Filled with the flu, so let's hope I get to stay in bed all tomorrow as the snow falls. So let's take a look at what's going to happen here. Starting with the radar. As we can see, the system's already well on its way into Atlantic Canada. It's over Nova Scotia, touching the Burin Peninsula already. Let's take a look now at the model output. Again, we'll take a look at the weather maps first, and then we'll compare that to numerical data. So the first thing I'm going to do is compare it to the high-resolution Canadian. That's GEM Regional right here. And also I'm going to take a look at the high-resolution American. That's NAM. So I need to set this to the latest run. Some of them aren't quite in yet, which is not a big deal. All we need for today's precipitation types wouldn't hurt either, and those appear to be in already. And same thing with the American, we'll set that to the 18Z. And I'll get those started in the precipitation charts. So you just click on precipitation animation. And this doesn't play well, it doesn't really go through the steps until you click play. So I'm going to go down and try and line this up and click play. And hopefully, oh, that one's a little off. It's for all the OCD people there. Oh, no, that one's off. Make sure that they're lined up so it's easier to flip back. There we go. Flip between the two charts, and then we can easily see the difference between the two. All right, so they've begun to play. So let's take a look here at what's going to happen. You can see the system's there as it should be. Thursday at 9 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, which would be 6 p.m., which is around where we are right now. Which is a little interesting. It looks like the models are a little slow. Well, they're kind of sort of touching Nova Scotia, barely over Marystown. And in reality, I mean, this is a half hour past 21Z. The Canadian model only has a storm that's barely over Nova Scotia. I usually disregard this light blue stuff because that's, 0.1 centimeter doesn't really mean anything over a 3-hour period. So the models appear to be running a little on the slow side, which means the storms could be over sooner than the models are expecting in the long run. American's looking good as far as Nova Scotia, but it's not getting that lift over the Burin Peninsula that we're seeing. So we could end up with higher snowfall amounts for Newfoundland than the models are expecting. And the agreement's not good either between the two. And at least the Canadian model has that little trough right here extending towards Marystown, the Burin Peninsula. The American's not picking up on that at all. So right away, my first call is to go with Canadian. Seems to be verifying with the radar far better than the American. So let's look forward into the future now and see what's going to happen with this system. On the Canadian, it's going to move up. Looks like it's trying to develop a little bit of a warm front there. Some kind of weird trough up north of the system. And then it basically creams us. It runs straight over the Avalon, almost straight over at least. Puts most of eastern Newfoundland right under the snow shield, which is the heaviest snowfall amounts typically on that northwestern side of a low is where you'll get the highest snowfall amounts, or precipitation in general. If you get a system like that in the summer, you'll end up with the highest rainfall amounts as well. Let's take a look at the American. Similar idea, although it really nails us there at at 6 in the morning, Friday morning. Although I don't really doubt that. 6 in the morning. The Canadian has a very similar thing going on. It's just a little farther north. So we can't really discount that, although, like we said, we're tending towards the Canadian model based on the current observations with the radar. But I'm not about to throw out everything that the American model says just yet. All right, so precipitation, back to the Canadian. Sorry if I'm flipping back and forth and confusing you guys with the different models. I'm back on the Canadian model now. This is 9 a.m. Newfoundland time, more or less. Uh, the center of the low goes right over the Avalon, so our winds will die out, at least for a little while. And the snow will kind of taper off a little bit, but then the winds will pick right back up in the afternoon. That's by the 3 hours leading up to 3 p.m. Um, so we'll have probably very high winds, I'm guessing, in the afternoon. We'll take a look at the numbers shortly after we're done looking at these weather maps. Excuse me. All right. In the American, same idea. The center goes pretty much over the Avalon. It doesn't look like the isobars are quite as close with the American. Um, yeah, it looks like they're a little tighter on the Canadian, to me at least. And so either way, we're still going to have some decent winds. All right, so that's Meteo Centre is maps. Let's move over now to Spot WX now that we know the whole weather picture. And what we're going to do is take a look at one thing you might want to do. I think this is fixed now, but when you're using Spot WX in St. John's, sometimes uh, that crosshair will put you out in the, you'll see the grid is mostly taking the ocean into account. You don't want to be in those because hopefully you're not in the ocean. You want to drag them in so your data point is mostly in the land. So you're not getting wonky observations and stuff, model output that's, for the ocean essentially. All right, so we're going to take a look at GFS. That's the low-resolution American. Unfortunately, NAM, the high-resolution American, doesn't cover eastern Newfoundland, but we'll make do since we're relying on the Canadian model as it stands right now anyways. Okay, so not a bad showing here. So we're looking at after midnight. Now these charts know what time zone we're in, so they're set to Newfoundland time. They have some precip starting this evening, which makes sense given that it's right on our doorstep. And we're going to see the snow come in and intensify just after midnight. That's 6 centimeters over a 3-hour period, so 2 centimeters an hour is a decent amount of snow to be falling, quite a high rate. And then it's going to be slightly less snowfall, but I mean that's a fairly consistent amount. It's going to add up to 12, a little over 12, 12 according to that, and then 13 by tomorrow afternoon. Looks like it might mix with a little bit of rain according to what we're getting here. So let's take a look at the precipitation type charts. Just before we do, I want to see why it's changing the rain. So the warm sector of the low is going to be in front of the cold front. That's this big tail here. And I guess this is the warm front right here. So here's the warm zone. And it looks like it's a little occluded there. Just seeing where that... Yeah, I'm not so sure. Let's see what the model's saying for when it turns to rain. Of course, it all depends on the temperature. Okay. Okay, so we're right on that line. Yellow signifies mixed precipitation. And yeah, so we'll see some wet snow, maybe some ice pellets. Turning to rain just at noon, between 9 and noon, when there's already quite a bit of snow on the ground, which could make for some pretty bad driving. And then, oh, and then uh, turns back to snow shortly after. I'm kind of curious about the temperatures now, because if those temperatures, so 6 a.m. temperature starts to increase, and that might seem strange. That temperature gets up to 5 degrees, and yet it's still snowing. But that happens. It just depends on how deep the warm layer is above the Earth. Keep in mind that the snow's falling through a much colder atmosphere before the time it hits the ground. Uh, so it'll fall as snow and might start to melt, but with the amount of snow that's on the ground, it might take a while for it to do that. So it's just above zero. We're at 4 degrees at 9 a.m. And then the temperature is going to get below zero in the early afternoon. So any wetness that's on the ground could freeze. So those could be very dangerous driving conditions in the early afternoon. So please be careful if you're on the roads Friday afternoon. And the American, this is GFS, the low resolution. Same a similar idea. The temperature is going to spike about, well, not spike, it'll just barely get above zero and then come right back down in the early afternoon. And Americans given us 8 centimeters, a little bit of rain near noon, and then a little bit of snow as this low exits into the Atlantic. Excuse me. All right, all right. So a big factor will be the wind. A lot of this will be kind of wet snow, so it might not blow around a huge amount, but with 50-kilometer sustained winds in the American model, and similar winds, 44-kilometer-hour sustained in the morning, that's going to be some low visibility, um, especially with the snow sticking to the windshield, but probably be worse if it was dry snow. All the same, the wind starts to die down in the morning, and keep in mind this is when the center of the low gets to us. So it's kind of the eye of the storm, if you want to call it that. And then as the low exits in the early afternoon, the winds spike right back up, as we were saying earlier, 50 kilometers sustained. So that could be gusting into the 70-kilometer-hour range. So basically, not very nice in the morning, a little bit nice in the midday, and then really bad again in the afternoon. So it's going to be a really, really messy day overall. Uh, Again, watch out for the freezing in the afternoon. That's going to be really dangerous if there's no salt on the road or not enough salt on the road in the afternoon. Um, so generally, we're looking at a really terrible day. So it's going to start to snow here this evening, Thursday evening. Get quite high in just after midnight. Winds will be very high. In the morning, snow amounts will kind of level off and winds will die down briefly, but then they'll change. The snow changes to rain, and then changes back to snow behind the low, and then winds kind of jump right up, and the temperature falls quickly. So generally, not going to be a very good day for driving tomorrow. So please, please, please be careful. If there's any questions, shoot me an email. Find me on Facebook, Rogue Meteorology on Facebook, website, roguemeteorology.com. This is Matthew Grant, and hope you stay safe tomorrow. Bye.